Here at Nomad Capitalist, we've often said that having multiple citizenships is the best way to protect your wealth and to protect your freedom in these uncertain times. But for folks looking for just one second passport, I'm going to make a case today for what could be called the Swiss Army knife of passports. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And I'm going to talk about what could be the Swiss Army knife of second passports, or of first passports if you were fortunate enough to be born there. Now, this is not necessarily my endorsement. I am not saying to go out and get this passport. I'm simply making a case for what you could argue gives you almost all of the benefits that you would want in a second passport. I'm also going to lay out the caveats, also going to lay out the downsides. The passport I'm referring to is Chile. And why is Chile potentially the Swiss Army knife of second passports? Well, there's a number of reasons. Number one, while you are living there, or at least while you're getting settled in, you can benefit from a rather generous tax exemption for the first couple of years. So while you are establishing your residence, while you are putting in your initial time there, you don't have to worry about the taxes that oftentimes come with going and setting up shop somewhere. And so even as we see a country like Germany, for example, the new government is talking about reducing the timeline to naturalization, you're still going to need to spend the vast majority of your time in Germany to get second citizenship, and you're going to be taxed as you do that. In Chile, even if you do spend a good amount of time there, you get a couple years of tax exemptions. So let's be clear, we'll talk more about this in a minute. Chile is not a citizenship by investment program. You're not getting their passport in 6 months on the ground. But while you are putting in some of your time, you can benefit from that tax exemption. Now, let's fast forward 5 years plus the processing time on the front end and back end, and you get your passport. What do you have as a travel document? Well, first of all, you've got a relatively drama-free document. I don't hear a lot of people complaining about the Chileans or going to war with the Chileans. And so unlike other high-quality Western travel documents, you have that advantage. But what you also have is a unique ID card advantage to pretty much all of South America, with the exception of Venezuela. You've got great coverage all over Latin America in general. You've got access to every single country in Europe, most of the countries in Asia. No China yet, but you do have access to Russia if that's important to you. You have access to all the Southeast Asian countries for the most part, ones that a lot of other citizenship by investment programs, for example, wouldn't offer. You've got access to, for some of this is important, emerging African economies, South Africa, economies like that. What you also have with Chile's passport is access to the CUNA countries that we talk about, or at least the CUN countries, in terms of Canada, the United States, and New Zealand. Really the one country on Chile's visa-free travel map that stands out as being grayed out is Australia. You'll need a visa to travel to Australia, and you'll need something else to get out and travel back. But by and large, you can go to pretty much every country on Earth, with a few exceptions like China, like Australia. Of course, a number of African countries require visas. A couple of Asian countries require them, but you're pretty much traveling anywhere that you want to go. And so as a travel document, you have, again, low drama, excellent access around the world. You also have a country that you can go to that is certainly rather isolated. Anytime I fly that far south in South America, I think to myself, oh my goodness, this is really far down here. I mean, you fly from Bogota, you fly from Panama. I mean, even that flight it seems like a long flight. You have great geography in terms of the isolation. You have, what people would say is, protection from some kind of wars, for example, that happen in the Northern Hemisphere. Certain stuff that, isn't in the Southern Hemisphere. Obviously, the Southern Hemisphere has a very small percentage of the world's population. Overall, most of the population, and hence most of the problems, are in the Northern Hemisphere. And so you are blissfully isolated away from that, and you have a passport that allows you to get there relatively easily. So if you are, let's say that you want to go back to your home country, you want to go to a place where they have to accept you. Something's happening in the world, you think something's going to happen in the world, you want to go back to your home country. You can be in Europe, you can fly through Canada, you can fly through the United States, you can do whatever and get back to your home country where you have this geographic isolation and the advantages of living that far away from civilization. You have productive land. You have a lot of benefits in terms of being able to live down in Chile, as well as having the citizenship, and as well as, at least when you're getting started, the tax benefits. Now, the caveats are, one thing I've mentioned Chile before, and the last time I was in Chile, we were getting tear gassed as we walked through riots, and we were unable to go to the beach because the people had blocked off the highways. The country is perhaps slowly going in the wrong direction, as some Western countries are, in the sense of my theory is that once you have visa waiver program access to the United States, you start to go backwards a little bit. You've reached the pinnacle. Now you've got to start finding other problems. You've got to start finding these little small problems, and sometimes that includes let's raise taxes on people, or let's make life more difficult, or let's have more regulations. That often happens. Another issue is that you do have to put in time to live there. We do not keep up to the extent we do with other programs. We don't keep up with Chile to that same extent, precisely because I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who says, I even want to put in the first 6 months in Chile to get the ball rolling. And the idea is that historically you haven't really needed to put a lot of time in on the ground after the first year, but there has been scuttlebutt that, hey, maybe that could change. And anytime you've got, such a high quality passport, such a respectable country, you walk around Santiago, there are parts of it that feel to me like I'm walking around Vancouver. Just the way the streets are lined up, just the fact that you've got lights in the crosswalk. You've just got this kind of advanced Western style of living that just feels, it does kind of feel like a Canada to me in some ways. And, that's great. You have services, you have development. And so to me, a country like that still has pretty lenient residence requirements is only itching for a change. You've seen what happens in nearby Paraguay, where it used to be, hey, just come in and get your permanent residence, pop your head back in every once in a while, and you're on a path to citizenship. And that was taken advantage of, and they took it away. Now, Paraguay was kind of a poster child for that fast, easy, cheap. We must have received in our lifetime, not so much recently, but I think we counted like 10,000 comments and messages and requests from people, mostly in South Asia, who were just like, hey, fast, easy, cheap, how much to go to Paraguay? And it ruined it. Now, Chile perhaps doesn't have that same coverage, but the idea that, such an advanced country, especially one that has to now have good relationships with all the countries it has visa-free travel with, is going to make it so easy for anyone to really not put that much time into the ground there and get citizenship. I understand there are going to be people who are going to say, no, I'm wrong. But if I'm reading the tea leaves, I don't know that I feel safe not putting in a lot of time on the ground there, simply put. And so if you don't want to spend time there, even if it's just for a year, then this is not for you. This is a passport that if you don't want to go and spend roughly $1 million in Malta, you don't want to work towards Portuguese citizenship with the golden visa, you don't want to, or you're not able to claim European citizenship by descent, or Korean citizenship by descent, maybe it would be an equal quality one, then this is an alternative where, again, relatively tax friendly, great passport, but you're putting in time rather than money. It may not be a ton of time. It is not a 10 or 20-year process, as are some countries of equal quality. And I think it's relatively straightforward. So those are the pros and cons of what some could call the Swiss Army knife. People would argue, hey, a European citizenship is great. Others would argue, hey, listen, you're in the middle of Europe. There are some downsides to that. Chile gets away from that. Great regional access in basically one language. If you learn that language, you have a huge market to access. Great travel document. Great place to live. Perhaps going in the wrong direction. Perhaps going to make it more difficult. Overall, some would argue that Chile has the Swiss Army knife of passports. I want to know your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.